And now I'm happy to introduce you to Max Greenfield, an American actor and author of several illustrated children's books. He is known for his role as Schmidt in New Girl and Dave Johnson in The Neighborhood. In the past 3 years, he has published the picture books, I Don't Want to Read This Book is Not a Present, and I Don't Want to Read This Book Aloud. Featured at the 2024 National Book Festival, Greenfield's new picture book, Goodnight Thoughts, is a bedtime story about acknowledging anxiety. He is in conversation with Chasten, a teacher, advocate, and husband of Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg. He currently lives with Pete, their 2 children, and their rescue dog in Traverse City, Michigan. Buttigieg's memoir, I Have Something to Tell You, was a New York Times bestseller in both the adult and young adult editions. His forthcoming children's book, Papa's Coming Home, hits shelves next May. Enjoy the festival, and let's welcome Max and Chasten.
No, you. No, it's you. No, really, it's not you.
I forgot where they told us to sit.
I forgot for a moment, too. And got
This
really
is going
nervous.
really well.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
I know you're supposed to start this, but I'm going to start it instead.
You should.
Before we get into Goodnight Thoughts and any of the other books that I've been so lucky to be able to write, I know we already mentioned this, but Chasten has his own first picture book.
Stop it, Mac. No, this is about you.
I know, I don't want to stop it, and I will not. It's called Papa's Coming Home.
Oh my gosh, Max.
And it is excellent.
Thank you. I feel like you're doing this because you don't want me to ask the embarrassing questions.
I'm ready for every embarrassing
such
question.
a good ally.
I'm
I have
an
to go
embarrassing
through here.
question. That's what my parents say. Sorry.
It's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you.
As a dad of 2 3-year-olds, thank you and the National Book Festival for having this at 12:45. I got the best night's sleep last night. How are you feeling?
Well, I requested that specifically for you. I was like, I don't think Chasten's ready
Such
for
an
this.
ally.
He's been in Chicago this whole time. He's got kids. This is 12:45 is the earliest.
You know how he can be.
Yeah, that's right.
On a scale of Schmidt to very serious author, how are you feeling today?
I don't know that there's much of a difference.
Have moderators or folks who interview you ever express concern that they will
Yes.
Period. That they would ever accidentally call you Schmidt?
No, but it happens.
Okay, so it's
sometimes.
Just me.
Yeah.
It says Max Greenfield at the top.
Good.
Don't call him Schmidt. Do people feel, this is so selfish of me, but I'm clearly a fan of New Girl. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do people assume that you're like Schmidt in real life?
Yes, and for probably good reason.
Is it like, do you feel like you have to live up to the hype?
No, I think I just managed to do that on my own. And then every once in a while, somebody will yell, 29 at me, and I'll just do it back. And then it seems to make everyone happy.
That's a great bit just to have in your pocket.
Diffuses any situation.
So you're a dad of 2 kids as well.
I am.
And today's a very special day, right?
Oh gosh, I know. I was given permission by my son Ozzy. It happens to be his birthday this weekend, and he said, I know. Well, it's luckily for him, it's his birthday every day with me as his dad. But he allowed me to come out here and to be with you and to be with all of you guys. So thanks, Ozzy.
I just thought maybe we could give Ozzy a birthday present. We could all, because this is recorded and it will live on in infamy on YouTube,
Yes.
we could all just say happy birthday, Ozzy, on a count of 3. Is that okay? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday, Ozzy. Here we go.
He also is like one of those boys that's gonna go like this. Don't do that, man.
Oh, God. You're a girl dad.
Please don't. Yes.
I'm a girl dad. And you have Olivia Rodrigo bracelets on, is that right?
Yeah, we went to the show last week and it was excellent.
I used to teach 8th grade.
I thought you were gonna say, I used to teach Olivia
I used to teach
Rodrigo.
Olivia Rodrigo. It's a little known fact. I don't brag about it often. I am terrified of having a teenager of my own. I felt like I could teach them, but what is it like being the dad of a teenager?
I sort of now love it.
Good.
Yeah.
You can't say the opposite.
No, well, you could. I think it would be actually very easy to say the opposite, but I love it. You know, I think you, as a parent, have to adjust the relation, and you have to sort of adjust as she's adjusting, and, you know, they reach a point where they're changing and they're figuring out who they are, and you sort of need to do the same. You can get stuck in how your relationship used to be, and that's just not how it is anymore. And you sort of want to hold on to what that relationship is, and you realize that by doing so, you find it more problematic as they are moving forward and you're trying to then catch up.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I'm gonna go.
Stop while we're ahead.
Yeah.
So I watched some interviews.
Oh, God.
And in one interview, you talked about how, which I related to, that some of your friends reconsider coming over for dinner because they know that your kids will be there.
That happens, you know. Well, I mean, it's not our kids specifically, but you have friends.
Like the kids will be, like we have friends who don't have kids, and it's like coming into a home with children is a vibe shift.
Yeah, totally. Like, oh my God, you know what would be really easy for us? If you guys just came over.
100%.
And then all of a sudden those people have plans, and all of a sudden Friday isn't good.
It saves you a lot of money. In
well,
childcare costs.
Yes, it's a whole thing. And like, our kids are really cool. Come over, you'll enjoy the experience. We enjoy them. And then that, you know, it's just not for everyone.
I really appreciate doing that here in Washington because I feel like the vibes are different when you have a senator sitting on your couch wanting to talk about something very important and 2 toddlers running around with like guitars and tambourines constantly screaming. You're like, well, we didn't have to get a sitter, so.
Guys, we're talking about transportation.
Yeah, Gus would be like, this is a bus.
No, not the bus. I'm so sorry. This is
our son is very into light rail. Talk about being a dad. Like, how has a dad changed you, or how has being a dad, like, informed your worldview?
Yeah, well, you just stop thinking about yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
And you've always struggled with that.
Daily. Every morning. Oh, hi, Matt. I haven't seen you. Yeah, every day. But yeah, I mean, that is the immediate shift that happens. And it was one of the most, it has been the most beautiful thing to embrace that. And I think since that attitude adjustment has led to more personal success than I could ever imagine. And then you just try to give it all away.
As an author, how has being a dad helped you in writing these books?
Oh my God, well, these books wouldn't exist without the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the first book came about, I don't want to read this book, during the pandemic. There it is. Thank you for holding that up. That made me feel really nice and special. But yeah, during the pandemic, everything shut down immediately. And my daughter was sent home with a curriculum, and I was supposed to be the teacher. And we took a picture of it, we put it on Instagram, and the only motivation behind that was to try to connect with other people who might have been as scared as we were, because we both knew that this was worst case scenario. And the response was immediate and big, and you had first responders who were reaching out, and really there was such a response from teachers saying, oh, I miss my kids. I miss being in the classroom. And we then felt like a tremendous responsibility to keep these videos going.
Yeah.
And they became daunting after a while. I was like, we've got to make another video. We're saving lives. My wife would be like, you're not, please don't make this a stressful thing. But during that time, I had an agent who reached out to me who said, hey, you know, I've been seeing the videos that you and your daughter have been doing. I think maybe this is a book. I said, a real book? And he said, well, maybe not. And he goes, what about a picture book? And I said, well, you know, if I was ever going to do a picture book, it would be called I Don't Want to Read This Book, and it would be all the reasons why a child doesn't want to read a book, and by the end of that book, they will have read a book. And because that was my experience as a reader, and that was my experience trying to get my daughter to read. And the next day I thought, hey, that was a pretty good idea. It's a shame nothing will ever happen with that. And Albert came back the next, 2 days later and said, Penguin has bought it. And we got into the book and we started writing it, and we realized how personal a story it was for me, and how specific that, and how easy it was to write, because that experience was so true to my experience. The fears around reading and the fears around learning differently. Eventually, the fears about reading aloud. And that's what those 3 books are really about. And being able to have a teacher or a librarian or a parent acknowledge some of those fears, articulate them to a child who might be struggling in that way, who isn't able to then articulate. Do you know what I mean? And so that's how those books came about, and been real, and really has been the beauty of watching them sort of exist in this world, exist in the classroom, exist in libraries. It's been just an incredible experience.
It's so cute. I've watched videos of you on YouTube reading the book to a group of kids, and they love it.
Yeah.
Because it's very engaging with some of the goofy words that you've chosen to include. But you've also, you've broached a subject that some parents and teachers struggle with, which is getting kids motivated to read. And you sort of touched on that. That was an experience for you as well.
Yeah, totally. Reading is something that has always been very challenging to me. Perhaps challenges that I wish had been identified and defined much earlier in my life. But I think, that's sort of why we wrote these books.
Yeah.
And to see, and again, just to see kids, get a little indignant when they're reading the books, and have a fun time when they're exploring the words. And the books are, I'm so proud of the books, because they in no way speak down to the reader. These are not written for like a child. These are written for a peer.
They're smart kids. And in these videos, these really, really smart, engaged kids love the book.
Yeah, and it's an attempt to add to the conversation. And it's a tool, really, for teachers to be in the classroom, to be like, the one thing I hear from so many teachers about these books, which is always my favorite thing to hear, they pick it up and they go, I know exactly what kid I'm going to give this book to.
Great.
And because you know that child, and they can't, and they have such difficulty. They're the one who never wants to read. And let me tell you something. Those kids can coast. Those kids know how to because they're not dumb. They know how to sort of sit in the back and get by. And it isn't until like 3rd or 4th, sometimes 5th grade, when a teacher goes like this, I think there might be an issue here. And then the parents are like, yes, we don't think that they can. And and then it becomes a whole thing. And so to identify those issues early is, to me, such a essential part of the conversation that we're trying to have.
And now you set yourself up to have to write more of them, because this kid's gonna be like, well, I'll read Max Greenfield's book. you know.
I hope. No, yeah, so, well, the first one was I don't want to read this book, and then the second one we did was this book is not a present, and that I think really, it's a really fun book for kids who are like this, oh, it's a book.
Those are my kids.
Those are my kids as well. And so we thought it would be funny in that way, but really, like, that book is so much about learning differently, and, you know, being able to be like, well, the way I learn is with my hands, or the way I learn, you know, like, I can pick up a guitar and I just know how, I can't read the music, but I know how it's supposed to sound. You know, it's that experience for kids who are like, I need to be out on a skateboard or whatever it is, and they understand that, but something about the words on a page doesn't connect with them.
It's so cute, and it's very true. The other day I picked up 2 books in an airport, and they went to like Minnesota and Georgia and DC with, you know, they went all around the country. And then I came home and told them I was bringing a present home. And when they sat down on the couch and I gave them their books, they were like, trash. You know, they just immediately threw it on the ground and were very upset that I had brought it.
There was a video I sent to Penguin at some point, and I asked my son, I was like, they loved it so much, I asked my son, I was like, can I put this on like Instagram when the book comes out? And then he goes, please don't. But it was me giving him, like I had wrapped a present for him and I gave it to him and he opened up his book and he went like this, oh!
My kid has a weird obsession with tearing up books. But he'll take this book and he will rip the page, like he sleeps with books, which obviously makes his dad's very happy. And then in the morning, there will, like, Chicka Chicka Boom Boom is just everywhere. And he's like sleeping amidst the torn up pages of Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. And he'll be like, I broke it. You did. He hasn't torn up your books yet.
I mean, if there's a better
Yet
endorsement.
is very important for you to know because it's going to happen. Like the book I brought him home from the airport. It's a cool book about airplanes and airports, and he really likes flying. And then the next morning, there's just airplanes everywhere. And he's like, I broke it. Like, I feel like that means you love it. Maybe he wants to be closer to the action.
I'm going to say he likes the books that he doesn't rip up a little bit better. But, you know, agree to disagree.
I'm going to send you a picture now. It's inevitable, and it really drives me nuts. So tell us about the forthcoming book. You wrote Goodnight Thoughts.
Yeah, so the first 3 books, which we've discussed, are all centered around the fear of reading, the fear of learning differently, the fear of reading aloud. And we were sort of in the midst of promoting, I think it was This Book Is Not a Present, and Jennifer Klonsky, who is the greatest publisher of all time at Penguin Books, you can cheer, she goes, well, what are we doing next? And I was like, ooh, there's a next? And we knew we wanted to do something different. We felt like there was enough that had been said in the learning area and the reading area. And the idea of doing a much more traditional bedtime story came about. And I guess before we get into it, can I read it?
Yes, you should.
Can I read it?
I think we should hear it. You get to do your TED Talk now.
They gave me a clicker to do slides. I don't know how this is gonna go. Don't give me toys, nor technical things that I'm supposed to figure out. Anyway, I thank you guys so much. I am so excited to read this book for you. I love it so much. Okay. This is Goodnight Thoughts, written by Max Greenfield and beautifully illustrated. Oh yeah, it works. Beautifully illustrated. The illustrations are so incredible in this book, by James Serafino. Okay. We're on the first page. If that kid falls asleep during the reading, everyone needs to buy a book. Okay. I'm never gonna fall asleep. Oh wait, I think I broke it.
That's it. That was the book.
That was the whole book.
It's such a beautiful book.
Okay. Okay, we'll start over, right? They shouldn't have given this to me. All right. I'm never gonna fall asleep. Oh yeah. My brain is too noisy, my thoughts are too jumpy, and every time I close my eyes, I'm afraid of all the scary stuff I see. Sometimes I see myself being chased by giant robot sharks. Other times I can see my toilet bowl overflowing with tarantulas. One time, I even saw a dentist. How am I supposed to relax if all I can think about are robot sharks, or tarantula toilets, or the dentist? This one time I tried to fall asleep and saw the whole world pop into a piece of popcorn. Another time I thought about my very best friend sailing off to sea on a pirate ship made of toast. And just the other night, as soon as I closed my eyes, I fell off a cloud. But instead of falling down, I flew straight up towards the sun. It was the most scared I've ever been in my whole life because everything got so bright, I couldn't see anything at all. How am I ever going to fall asleep knowing that the world might pop like popcorn, or that my friend might sail away with pirates, or that I might fall from a cloud straight up towards the sun? I wish these thoughts would stop bouncing around inside my head. Sometimes I try to have happy thoughts. I close my eyes really, really tight and try to imagine a baby panda opening its arms and giving me a hug. Other times I think about a choir of candy-covered donuts all singing my favorite songs. And if I really can't fall asleep, if it feels like my brain won't ever calm down, I try to think about all the people who love me, holding hands and wearing every piece of clothing that they own. I try and I try to think of baby pandas and singing donuts and everyone who loves me, but no matter how hard I try, I still can't fall asleep. But then I close my eyes again. I remember that my brain can be noisy and that my thoughts are sometimes jumpy. And then I remember that all that noise and all those thoughts are just in my head. I'm not being eaten by a robot shark. My toilet isn't overflowing with tarantulas, and thank goodness there isn't a dentist in sight. As far as I can tell, the world hasn't popped into a piece of popcorn. My best friend is still here, and I'm not falling from a cloud. Right now, everything is okay. And so am I. Good night, thoughts. Good night.
Did the kid fall asleep?
Thank you, guys.
Incredible, right? So we've learned that you hate dentists.
It's in 2 books. I don't like the dentist. People will be like, when's the last time you went to the dentist? I don't want to talk about it.
That was really beautiful.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about this idea of conquering your fears and anxiety. Why did you want to write a book about that?
I was trying to figure out what I wanted to say with the next book, a story I wanted to tell. Having written 3 books at that point, I sort of understood a little bit about the structure of a children's book and what story would best fit that structure. And it was right around the time when a dear friend of mine, I think you guys remember, Leslie Jordan, who actually took his book here not too long ago. He also was a big star during the pandemic on Instagram. We were very close, and one thing we would do together is we would make lists. We would talk about our fears and ultimately make a list of all our fears. And Leslie's list was always far more entertaining than mine. He would say, bumblebees, pocket knives, straight man. And the idea behind it was, let's write these lists out, let's say them out loud, and then let's then ask ourselves, which of these fears are in front of us in this moment? And if they weren't in front of us, which most of them were not, there was no bumblebees in front of him, why were we then carrying these fears around with us? And for Leslie and I, this was more of a wake-up book in the morning, because we would wake up with all of our fears. And this would sort of calm them down throughout the day. But I thought, oh, how interesting it would be to utilize that exercise before bed. And so we started to write it, and again, Jennifer Klonsky of Penguin, I was like, this is a book, I know it's a book, and we went back and forth and we really sculpted it in that way. And it got to this place which I know I love so much. I know the book is dedicated to Leslie. I know he would really love it. He's so upset that he's not up here right now with none of us, talking only about the book himself. But yeah, it's when something like this that's as meaningful as it is, and deals with the type of subject it does, when it comes out the way that it has, I feel so proud of this book, and I've yet to find the words to articulate how exciting it is that this is now going to be out in the world.
I think you should really be proud of yourself. As a dad, you know what it's like to read 5, 10 books sometimes. You've read hundreds of books now to your kids, and some nights you read multiple books, or you read the same book over and over again, and you're also then familiar with the books that have nothing. They provide nothing, right? And sorry, but this book is I really love this book because it invites you in, and it's something real that a child might feel, and you're giving parents a way to talk about those things together. Was that one of the goals for the book, is to provide, the launch pad for a wider conversation?
Yes, so we talked last night about, the goal of any great children's book is not just, children's books are not just meant to be read. They are really meant, I think the good ones, as a bridge to a conversation.
Yeah.
And with the first 3 books, if there's one kid who can raise their hand and say, I feel that way too about reading, maybe that leads to a greater conversation about, well, what is it exactly that's blocking you from the words on this page? What happens when you read a book? What's your experience with that?
Yeah.
And with this one, my vision for it, it opens up a conversation about, well, what are you afraid of? Or maybe it prompts your child to say, I can remember when my son at one point, and again, we discussed when we all sang or we said happy birthday to him, he was the kind of kid who's like, can you not do that? I remember we were laying in bed once and he goes, Dad, can I tell you something? There's something that I'm afraid of. And as a parent, you go, I didn't prep for this. Oh my God, here it comes. I'm like, I have to put my uniform on. This is dad time. And you have, it's time for you to get ready. And this is all of a sudden, this is a huge moment for your child, but you're like, oh my God, please don't mess this up. I wasn't ready for this. I'm not, And if that's the moment, if this book can lead you into that moment with some sort of preparation as a parent,
yeah,
it's not just it's not just meant to be a bedtime book and hopefully the child is asleep afterwards and oof, good, I can go watch whatever Netflix show I want to, it's maybe your child can then discuss some of the things that they're afraid of.
Yeah.
And if they open up that door, It allows you to have a discussion as a parent, and maybe what the book tries to do is put those thoughts to bed, at least for now. Because what that fear does, and those thoughts that spin us around, it blocks us from being present in the moment, and it blocks a child from doing what they should be doing in that moment, which is go to sleep. And if they're really holding on to those fears, if they're clinging on to them on a daily basis, it's blocking them from being a child.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, that child is a teenager. And they probably haven't let go of it then. And then they're adult, and they're still probably holding on to it. And so the idea is to openly share these things. I mean, that's been my experience with life and with my own feelings and emotions. It's like, you know, I hold on to these things. I'm scared, and I'm scared if I let them out that they'll keep pouring out and I'll fall apart and it'll all be. And what I would do with Leslie and you know, the people closest to me is like, you share these fears and you make them right-sized, and you're able to take them and build a different relationship with them that allows you to then be present in whatever you're doing in the moment.
Yeah.
And hopefully with this, it's to get a good night's sleep.
I like it. And, you know, for those of us who didn't get to process our fears as a child, then you can grow up and write a memoir.
That's exactly right.
You've given us such an important tool as parents, right? As an opportunity.
I just was like,
You're going to be fine either way.
I'll never write a memoir. I'll get every book that every one of these children's books is the first chapter of the memoir.
But this is a really important tool because it asks, or it gives us an opportunity to be vulnerable.
Yes.
And if your kid is comfortable enough to be vulnerable with you, to say, Dad, I'm afraid of something, then you've done something right. And for parents who might not know how to get there, you've given them a really good tool. You know, if they're still awake after the book, right, or the next day to have that conversation is really, really important. And I like to think, I think many of us do, books are like windows and mirrors, right? The opportunity to either see yourself or to look into somebody else's world. Is there a mirror here for you? You've talked about Leslie, but as a child, do you feel like or you know, your inner child, do you feel like you were able to let go of something by putting this book out into the world?
Oh my gosh. Do I feel like I was able to let go of something?
It doesn't have to be dark, but like it's kind of cool to put a book out into the world, right?
No,
and you've done something. You've given people a gift, but therefore you've been able to share something that you might have been holding on to.
Yeah, no. Well, I think definitely these are books that I wish I had when I was a kid. These are conversations that I wish I was able to engage in when I was younger. You know, my relationship with my kids, and I think a lot of parents' relationships with their kids is different and interesting, and as close as you are to your kids, sometimes you're the person that they're least comfortable with talking about what actually is going on and what they're feeling. And so these books, and books in general, and this is the wonderful, we were talking about this last night and being at this festival, these books, specifically children's books, can act as that bridge to that conversation. You know, it's sort of like, let this book be my voice while we're laying in bed and I'm reading this to you, to then help you open up to me. And to me, I mean, that's the gift of these books. And to then have those conversations is really sort of what I'm, I guess, letting go of in that moment.
And speaking of vulnerability, did you ask your kids for feedback?
Yes, I read Goodnight Thoughts to my son to the point where he's been privy to many drafts. And at some point he was like this, is this the same one again? I go, do you think there should be a comma here? He's like, I don't know what a comma is.
They really humble you, don't they?
That's an understatement.
Yeah.
That's a generous way of saying it.
you have some really cool language in the book. Like, I'm afraid of my best friend riding away on a pirate ship made of toast. Like, where does that come from? And are you, like, in the grocery store and you have to, like, quickly write it down? Are you, like, constantly noodling over what the fear is?
So we really wanted to make sure that the fears in this book were a broad spectrum, so that different kids could access different fears. And I was really excited having done, the first 3 books are all, it's just all words. And this one I knew there was going to be actual, illustrate, like real drawings. And so we wanted to make it a very fun visual experience. And so we were like, that all that fear was, well, what if my friend moves away? What if I lose my best friend? And then we thought, well, visually it'd be fun if they were on a pirate ship. And then what if that pirate ship was made out of toast?
Were you pitching ideas to your kids? Like, what if your friend was leaving, like, in a sports car made of donuts, and they're like, dumb.
They're sort of dumb.
Trash.
They're sort of, I want to say they're a little bit more mature than I am. So I sort of trust my own voice in this. And I will do it I will sort of do it in a Schmidt voice while I'm going around. It's like a pirate ship made of toast. And so, and everybody's like, yeah, it works.
We're running out of time, but I would like a reread of the book as Schmidt. Maybe you can put that on YouTube.
It wouldn't be much different.
Okay, we're running out of time. I have a couple more questions for you.
It would just be more indignant.
So, sometimes...
My friend sailing away? On a pirate ship? Made of toast?
Thank you.
Well, what kind of toast is it?
They're eating it up. Keep going.
I know. It's very easy.
So, sometimes when I do book talks, I feel like, moderators have no idea who you are. They've never read your book. And then there are moderators who did way too much research. I do want to ask you about something.
That whole book is Phil.
Just while we have a few minutes. This is totally unrelated to the book.
Please.
According to Wikipedia...
They're always right.
In 2015, you were the spokesman for the McDonald's sirloin third-pound burger. If you could be the spokesman for another fast food item, what would it be?
The McSirloin half-pound burger.
Just make it bigger.
Just bigger. We live in America, guys. Bigger, better.
Frankly, it wasn't big enough.
No. I don't know. What would yours be?
No, you don't get to flip the table. I'm the moderator now.
I feel pretty satisfied.
Do you have a guilty pleasure? A fast food guilty pleasure?
I don't have a fast food guilty pleasure. If
you're in LA,
I wish I had a funny answer to this, but I really like those new sodas, the Ollipops.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm over here thinking like I would do Baja Blast or something, and you're like, a health soda, thanks, Max.
I'm old. I've got to, take care of my ecosystem.
Your ecosystem.
People are like this. I think he's actually Schmidt.
I have to take care of my ego. Oh, we just got the 5-minute. When I put these questions together, I did not put them in the order I should have, because that was a fun one. And just, how have the arts impacted your life?
Well, I will say, getting to work on material like the McDonald's campaign, being around other artists,
Other burgers.
Yes, other burgers, the Hamburglar, Ronald McDonald himself. I mean, he obviously wasn't at the shoot. He doesn't do that kind of thing anymore. But yeah, I mean, to be able to take that experience and put it out into life, I mean, it just, the arts, they filter into every part of my life.
And were you upset you didn't win an Emmy for
Great time to talk
the
about
McDonald's sirloin 3rd-pound burger ad? Because the performance, it was
It's hard work.
riveting, yeah.
People think you just show up and you just, no. Months of prep.
Can you pass me the clicker? Because I teed up the McDonald's. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. So, is there another book I know this one's just about to come out, and everybody has pre-ordered it, right? It's that fun part where you get to shame the audience for not pre-ordering your book. It's really beautiful, and I hope folks share it. You know, if you don't have kids yourself, I hope you'll share it with other families, because the best part of a children's book, just as a dad, is the moment when they're encaptured and you're sharing a moment together. You're not just pointing at things and you're calling out pictures and you're going through this process. You know, it's bath time, brush your teeth, put your pajamas on, read a book, and then go to bed. Mm-hmm. This is a real opportunity with your kid, and I think you've done something really great here. And I know it's just about to come out, but are you already noodling on the next one?
Always.
What do you want to tackle? Reading, anxiety. I mean,
it's all the same. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's an idea that we are working on right now that is about expectations.
Oh, cool.
And perspective. I'm just thinking about it now. It's very early days. But I do
You just thought of it like 3 seconds?
Yeah, I
I'll
just
write it
thought
down
of it now.
so you don't forget.
It's called Papa's Coming Home. It's a really great idea. I don't think it exists yet. But yeah, I think perspective is something really interesting, and I think it's at the foundation, I think, of what we're thinking about doing next. And I think it's one of those things that I think perspective is something that is very, very hard to relay to a child. I'm always just like, well, how come they don't get it?
Yeah.
That's it.
All right.
But so try to put some of that into a book.
I'm really glad that you've gone in this direction of choosing to write stories that will either help kids or help parents have that conversation. I think that's really cool. Did you ever imagine in this career that you would be, the children's book guy? Did you ever imagine that somebody would say, "Oh, I have all the Max Greenfield books"?
I can tell you this. I know we have 20 seconds left. I haven't ever imagined any of it. Truly. Every day is a discovery and a gift, and what an incredible ride it's been.
Yeah.
And so, to be here with all of you, I can only describe as completely implausible for my own life. And I thank you all for being here. I thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for sharing your gifts with us.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Go buy Max's book.